Well, Scott Peters is a Democratic congressman from California. His district encompasses San Diego on the border of Mexico, where some of these detention facilities are located. I spoke to him earlier from New York. Scott Peters, nice to have you on the program. For Australian audiences, could you give us a sense of just how this situation got to this point in the United States?
Well, there was no change in our immigration laws. They've been the same as they were under President Obama and under President George Bush. What's changed is a so-called zero tolerance policy instituted by the Trump administration. That's it.
I want to come to those policy questions in just a moment, but first, you've seen this firsthand. A lot of this is happening in your own political district. Give us a sense of just what this human cost is here, the human tragedy we're seeing playing out.
I don't know if Australia has Father's Day, but we just had Father's Day in our country, and we all celebrated the chance to be with our parents and with our children. I'm lucky to have both, and what we're seeing now in the country is we're seeing the United States of America, we think of as the beacon of freedom to the world, the country with the values to show off to the rest of the world. Under the United States of America, we are tearing children away from their families, toddlers. One woman had was nursing her baby, had her torn from her breast, taken away. We've seen pictures of the boys, the older boys, but not the toddlers or the girls. Today, the Homeland Security Secretary said she didn't even really know where those kids were. It's horrible, and we can have all sorts of disagreements about policy. I'm not a fan of many of President Trump's policies. That's fair, but taking children from their parents is not just bad policy. It's pure evil, and it's not what the United States stands for. It's got to stop.
Now, we've seen former First Ladies who've spoken out or written about this. Melania Trump has also said she wants to see a policy that comes more from the heart. Do you get the sense that the American mood is changing on this issue?
I think there's a growing anguish. I know Democrats are quite upset, but what you see Republicans saying, "Come on, this has gone too far." And as a Democrat who's been frustrated with the Trump administration, I've been waiting for Republicans to stand up and say, this is where we draw the line. I think we may have hit that point. And if enough Republicans stand up and speak against this, I think we might be able to stop it. But I've never seen President Trump say he's sorry or acknowledge a mistake. I think it's going to take some action by others of us.
But Congressman, President Trump ran on a tough immigration platform. He said he would build the wall. He said there'd be zero tolerance. He was elected to do this, wasn't he?
Oh, you know, President Trump is free to pursue tougher immigration policies, but he's under no obligation to enforce it in this cruel and evil way. Separating kids from their families is just beyond the pale. So, you know, I disagree. I represent San Diego, California. We're on the border. We see the border with Mexico as an opportunity, not as a threat. We have a lot of great commercial and cultural relationships with Mexico. We disagree with the president on that. But the notion that he has to enforce his policy ideas by removing children from their families is un-American. And by the way, you see his own cabinet citing the Bible. This is un-Christian. It is immoral. It is evil. It's got to stop.
But it's much more complicated, isn't it, than that? We know that children cannot be kept in detention, that they are going to be separated from their parents. Barack Obama struggled just with this same issue.
Yeah, I think that proves my point. President Obama and President George Bush before him, a Republican, never seriously considered this mass separation of kids, putting kids in cages, concentration camps for children. Mostly because they're brown, in my view. When a president said, why can't we get immigrants from Norway? You know what he's thinking about. This is just awful. It's just un-American and appalling. So, the fact is that President Obama wrestled with this and didn't come out and do anything like this, nor did George Bush, under the same laws. same exact laws.
But Congressman, these are people who are breaking the law. They are trying to enter the United States illegally. That's what President Trump says. That's what the supporters of this zero tolerance policy say. Are they not right?
He is making that argument. I think, you have to also consider that the punishment has to beat the crime. This crime is, many times, by the way, people are asking for asylum, which they're entitled to do. There's nothing that prevents us from letting parents stay with their kids while we consider their legally authorized request for asylum. And at the same time, taking kids away from their parents is way beyond any punishment that's justified by people coming here, trying to find a job and make a better life for themselves. America was built on immigration. Even my ancestors, Midwestern farmers a couple centuries ago, that's the American way. That's what the Statue of Liberty says. Bring us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. That's America, not what President Trump is doing.
Now, you, of course, are a Democrat. And again, President Trump has said the Democrats are to blame for this situation because you haven't supported immigration reform. He says that the Obama administration was weak on this issue. It created a problem that he says he has to solve.
No, again, the law is the same as it was under President Obama as it is today. There's no need for this heinous, immoral activity of ripping children from their parents. We have actually supported a number of bipartisan immigration reforms for our so-called dreamers, for instance, who are people who are brought here at a young age, never knew another country, many times don't speak the language of their country of origin. We want them to be able to stay if they stay out of trouble. We want to reform the whole immigration regime here. A 2013 vote by the Senate, 69 votes out of 100, very bipartisan. Speaker Boehner wouldn't let the House vote on that bill. We would like to see a reform like that that includes the ability for people to come here to work in tech jobs, farm jobs, reunite families, and provide border security. That's what that compromise did. It was Republicans that didn't let us vote on it. Let us have that vote. We'll adopt it, and all this will be behind us. But don't blame us if we don't get a vote. And don't blame us for no change in law and the ridiculous concept that you have to enforce any law by separating children from their families and putting them in concentration camps. That's ridiculous.
This will now rest with Congress, and there are a couple of different bills that are before Congress right now to try to deal with this, one more moderate and one more hardline. Where do the Democrats sit when it comes to legislation around the issue of immigration?
President Trump has blamed Democrats for the notion that the law today requires this separation of families. But every single Democrat, I think in the House and the Senate, has co-sponsored a bill that would end that. I'm one of the co-sponsors of the bill that would certainly authorize him or prevent him from using this remedy for these crimes that he's so concerned about. So let us vote on it. We'll solve your problem. You don't have to blame the Democrats anymore, President Trump.
Just finally, are we not in a situation here where we know what President Trump wants? He wants to implement a zero tolerance policy. He wants to cut back on the levels of immigration. He wants to cut back on diversity lotteries. He wants to cut back on family reunion. That this is a stare-off, if you like, right now. He is saying, I will get my way regardless.
Isn't it something that what you're saying is that he's using these children as a bargaining chip? I do not think we should reward that behavior with any kind of policy remedy. Let's get this idea of separating children behind us. Then I know Democrats are willing to talk about immigration reform. We have been, as long as I've been in Congress, for almost 6 years now. If that's what he wants to do, he'll find every Democrat's door open to that concept. But using these children as a bargaining chip is just pure evil, and it's not American.
Scott Peters, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.